use Yardi Matrix, which is like $25,000 a year to get the list. That one doesn't have all the markets. It has certain markets and they're only 25,000 square feet and bigger. So essentially we buy that software, we utilize that software to call and mail out to those sellers. And now my net operating income, my bottom line after income and expenses, my net operating income increases for that work we do on the property. And so we're looking for add value opportunities where we can go in there and hopefully quickly add value and look to either refinance or sell at that point.
Hi everybody, Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome back to another episode of the Morales Group Show. Today we have a repeat guest. His name is Alex Quezada. He's a self-storage investor, entrepreneur based out of Orlando, Florida. And today he is going to be doing an episode on everything you need to know about self-storage from start to finish, how to find the deals, how to fund the deals, how to manage the deals, and how to exit the deals as well too. Welcome back to the show, Alex. How are you?
I'm fantastic and amazing. Thanks for having me.
I love it. For our viewers that don't know who Alex Quezada is, who is Alex Quezada? And then how did you get involved in this world of self-storage, real estate investing, and just investing in general?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida, went to UCF, finance degree, got into real estate from a radio ad, learning how to buy houses with no money down, bought a bunch of courses, started implementing some stuff. So I'll give you the fast version. So worked for somebody else for 3 years, wholesale for 3 years, me and my brother. He's 8 years younger than me. We were doing like 5 deals a month, started scaling up, just going to more masterminds and events. We saw other people doing more and more deals and realized that's what we should be doing, and started spending a lot more on marketing and just started doing from 5 deals a month to 20, 30 deals a month. And so now we have a good sized team where we still have our wholesale operation where my brother pretty much runs that day-to-day business, and I focus on self-storage.
I love it, man. Good. And for those of you guys that don't know Alex, he's being pretty humble about this, but he's probably one of the best people I know at finding really good opportunities and one of the best people that I know at negotiating contracts. So that's one of the things that I admire about you, Alex. So for our viewers that don't know anything about self-storage, maybe they want to get into the self-storage game. Let's just start off with like, how do you find self-storage deals? Like, what's the best way to find them, and what do you look for when you're looking for self-storage facilities?
For sure. So I like to relate to like single family houses. Like it's essentially same processes. You're going to go out and look for a list. So you're going to go find a list. There's a lot of data providers out there. Info USA, Data Axle are some of the ones we used when we first got started. And you just essentially are buying a list of like mini warehouses, or they might have certain codes in different counties or states, cities of how they classify storage facilities in that area. So you buy that list. You can also generate that list from like having a VA, like go on Parcel Maps and put together a list themselves, because it's very easy to identify what is a storage facility, because they're pretty, easy to identify on a parcel map. And the last way is the way we do it is we buy very expensive software. We use Yardi Matrix, which is like $25,000 a year to get the list. That one doesn't have all the markets. It has certain markets and they're only 25,000 square feet and bigger. So essentially we buy that software, we utilize that software to call and mail out to those sellers. And essentially wherever you're getting the list from, our first list was from I think it was Info USA. We bought the list, we market to the list the same way you would do with single family. So for us, our most successful way has been direct mail. So we send direct mail postcards or letters out to these sellers and just let them know, like, we're looking to buy properties, we're buying deals right now, this is what we're looking for, this is how we can help you. No commissions, we're direct buyers, we'll buy it as is, we'll make it an easy, seamless process for you. And then after that, it's just follow up. Obviously, like houses, you can go and send them mail, you can cold call them, you can send them text messages, you can pop into their store, like kind of like door knocking, pop in and see who's running the place, or maybe you meet the owner there, or meet the manager, try to get in contact with the owner. So the same way as you're kind of looking for houses and going out looking for, deals, same way you would do it self-storage. And you're just asking obviously different questions specific to self-storage. How many units they have, how do they operate the facility, are they the ones managing everything, are they how many units they have of each type, what's their occupancy like, what's their income like. So just asking different questions specific towards self-storage and collecting data. And then essentially, like single family as well, you're looking at what can you like for a rehab house, okay, this is in its current condition, what add value can I do? Can I put a new roof? Can I put new kitchen, bathrooms to make it worth more where these other properties are selling for? And for storage, you're looking at, okay, this is the income it's producing now. What add value can I do? So that way the income is much higher. The expenses are maybe less. And now my net operating income, my bottom line after income and expenses, my net operating income increases for that work we do on the property. And so we're looking for add value opportunities where we can go in there and hopefully quickly add value and look to either refinance or sell at that point.
Got it. Now, for direct mail, Alex, what type of frequency would you recommend that if somebody is interested in mailing? Like, do you mail one time a year, once every month?
So
and then
go ahead.
And then is there any mail providers that you would recommend as well too?
REI Print Mail. REI Print Mail is who I use. There's so many mail different providers out there. They do a good job for me. I have a personal connection with the guy as well. So and they track my mails to make sure I don't hit the same people, or if they've opted out or they have a bad address, they clean up the list. But we use them. For us, when we first started, we were mailing every other month. And then just because we were looking for more deal flow, we started mailing every single month. Now, it might not be necessary because many times, what I tell people is like, it's time and circumstance. So time and circumstance is going to change whether the seller calls you today or the next time you send them a mail piece. And so maybe not a lot of things change in 1 month, but the more you can stay in front of the seller and be top of mind to that seller. And so for us, we went from every other month to every single month mailing. And so it's obviously an added expense, but you become top of mind. And so when they see you consistently mailing to them, that way, when they have some kind of circumstance in their life that is needing them to sell or, change their circumstances, now you're the one they think of. So just got to stay in front of them as much as possible.
How big would a typical list be of people that you're mailing to?
So when you pull those lists, what mostly you're going to want to do is subtract, like take away, delete on the list all the big boxes. So like all the big name stores. So like Public Storage, Cube Smart, Life Storage, all the big guys. You're not going to go buy those facilities. They're like publicly traded companies, institutional, players. You're not going to buy those properties. So you're looking for the mom and pop properties. So when you cut out all those properties and you cut it down to those, your list is going to be, depending on your state, probably 3,000 to 5,000, of a certain, for us, we were trying to go like at least 15,000 square feet and bigger. And so the list is not huge, but, we try to send letters instead of postcards. So it's a little bit more expensive. So for us, I think the mail still for us is about 5,000 a month for the state of Florida.
Which is good. Good. And then why 15,000 square feet of storage space or more?
It's just trying to think bigger, like smaller deals is just not worth it to keep, especially if they're not like very close to you. So like I might buy a 5,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet facility in Orlando if it's like right there and I can easily manage it or have somebody on my team manage it. But to buy 10,000 square feet, 8,000 square feet facility, and it's 3 hours away, the expenses to get someone, for us, how we manage our properties, we use like an on-call, on-site, by appointment, boots on the ground manager. And so typically for us, we pay them $1,000 a month. And for 15,000 square feet, 30,000 square feet, it's a pretty good deal for us. But if it's 8,000 square feet and you only have 8,000 square feet of income coming in, that $1,000 a month probably is a big chunk of your income. So it's just, economies of scale the larger it is, the actually less expensive it is on your expenses.
Is it possible, similar to like residential, to cold call these types of sellers as well too? And
One
do
hundred
you
percent.
guys do that as well too, or is it just mainly like direct mail? And if so,
No,
does Yardi include the phone numbers, or what's the best way to find the phone numbers for them?
yep, you already includes the phone numbers. We also double skip them just to make sure like things are good after we kind of do our first pass. But the you definitely can cold call them. It has produced us leads, and we have a lot of leads from it, but they're just not always the most motivated leads because you're cold calling them. They haven't raised their hand essentially, saying they want to sell. So when you're sending mail, you'll get people who just want to hear an offer and you know see what you're about, and maybe get to give you their crazy price and see if you're stupid enough to
To
pay it.
pay.
But most times, you're going to get somebody who is also ready to sell and ready to go. On cold calling, it's a lot of it's a lot of just follow up. So it's touching base with those folks and follow up, follow up, follow up. We have a couple under contract now through cold calling, but we actually haven't closed any yet through cold calling.
I love it. Great. So let's say you find somebody or somebody calls you. Like, how do you underwrite them? And you kind of mentioned it earlier a little bit, like, okay, like how many square feet, how many units or this or that. What type of questions are you guys asking for to be able to determine like how much can you offer, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So first, essentially, what we're doing is so I'll start with like the cold caller. The cold callers call in just trying to get, hey, do you own this property? Or the owner? Do you have interest in selling? Why would you might be interested in selling? And just kind of get basic information about the property, the address, how many units, what sizes do you have, how many of each size, like what's the unit mix, what's your income, kind of gross income, and then just trying to get that basic information. And then it passes over to my acquisition team. And then at that point, my acquisition team is kind of diving in a little bit deeper about the property, what kind of software they're using. Do they have camera systems, their roads? Where do they see is there expansion opportunity? Where do they think if they owned it for another 10 years, is there opportunity on this property? And my goal for my acquisition team is to get the financials. So once they can get the financials, occupancy reports, unit mix, get all that information together, then it comes over to me where we underwrite the deal and we're looking at the competition, who else is in the other facilities in the area, how many other facilities are in the area, and checking the supply and demand. So how many 10 by 20s do they have in each facility? That's our competition. How many 10 by 10s, 5 by 5s? Each unit type is like a product. So you want to see how much of each product is out there. And it's all like a check of like supply and demand. So you're checking the supply and demand in the market and then seeing where their pricing is at, how full they are. So if this property has, 10, 100 10 by 20s, how full is that property and all the property we're buying, and then all the properties around us, because that will give us an idea how can we raise rents. And there's softwares out there, Yardi Matrix, the one I subscribe to, and then Radius Plus, where you can um, get some of this data from you, but also you have to physically call and get the information as well to see how much of them are full, because they'll give you the information of their pricing and their pricing increases or decreases at those properties, but it won't tell you how many are actually occupied or vacant. So you got to like secret shop them and call those facilities and get an idea of the occupancy to see how much the demand is in the marketplace. And then obviously we're looking at demographics, population increases in the area to see if this is actually a good market where we actually want to invest in.
Got it. And then what would you look for as it relates to population? And then is there like a certain mix of units that you look for? Like, are there like, for me, I own apartment complexes and I have 17 2 bedrooms on one apartment, 8 1 bedrooms, and then we're building 6 or 5 3 bedrooms. And I like having the variety of 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
Is that applicable to self storage?
For sure. You don't want to have a property that's been built and has like all, 5 by 10s or 10 by 10s. You want to be able to offer, a variety,
Variety.
but you also want to see what is, the guy might think, hey, all 10 by 10s and they're all full, and that might be good, and all the other ones might be full also. So it most likely they're going to have a variety, but you want to get an idea. It is best to have a variety. With the population, we're looking at around probably like 30,000 to 50,000 in more. But in actuality, like we got new data that says, even rural areas are doing really well with storage, that there's actually more people in rural areas using self-storage than in urban areas. So those rural areas have smaller populations. They'll drive farther to self-storage. And so it's also, you just really got to look at the supply and demand. And it's really, are those other properties full around them? Because it could be a small town, because you could crush it in a small town where the population is not that great. We have a property in Lake Placid where the population wasn't that much in a 3 to 5 mile radius. It was very, it's probably like 5,000 people, but we were full. The facilities around us were full, and there was demand. So there was demand coming from other areas. There was people driving up from Miami because the rates were just 3x what they were in Miami, and it was worth it for them to drive. And so you have to look at really the other your competition and see how they're performing to get an idea also about what you can expect for your property when you take over.
Got it. And then what do you typically look for as it relates to the numbers? Meaning, like based on a price, like how do you actually underwrite the numbers? In other words,
so you're really looking at a profit and loss statement. So you're looking at their income statement, going through their financials and seeing, okay, this is what their gross rent is, and what are the else is as an income for them. Do they have UHaul? Do they have are they selling boxes and tape and locks? Admin fees. Do they charge tenant insurance? Do they offer tenant insurance where they're getting a piece of the income for the tenant insurance? And so you're looking at all their income or their lack of income. Are they not charging tenant insurance? That's something I can add additional income when I take over the property. And then on the expenses, you're looking at, obviously taxes, insurance, knowing that the taxes are going to increase after you purchase it. How are they managing the property? So a lot of properties we buy where their expenses are really low, like they might be 20%, 18%, but they're doing everything. They're managing the property. They go out to the property and they meet people. They have no software in place. They're not doing any marketing. So their expenses are really low, but that's not the way we're going to operate it. So we actually have to add all these expenses that they don't have. Obviously it's best when you can subtract expenses, but in this case, a lot of times you're going to have to add expenses. And we just tell them like, hey, when we get to the numbers and it's less than what they were hoping to get for their price, you just got to educate them like, hey, Susie, we're not going to be out there, running the property like you are. We're going to have to hire somebody and put somebody in place to take a look at the property, meet people, clean out units, overlock people. We're going to, increase the marketing. Our goal is to expand or whatnot. So our expenses are going to be much higher. So we try to let them know that, and that's going to lower our net operating income, which is going to essentially give them a lower price than probably what they were expecting based on their income. Because the offer is just based on income and what you're going in, what we say cap rate is, and what you can get the cap rate up to. So a cap rate is essentially your cash on cash return if you bought the property all cash. So your net operating income divided by your desired cap rate is the purchase price you can pay. So for somebody who maybe has a bunch of money sitting in the bank account and they just want a very safe return, and on a good asset, they might only want a 4% return. And as long as it's a good, nice asset in a great area that they'll know will appreciate. And that's maybe they'll want a 4 cap. So it'll be a much higher price. But that same property producing the same income can sit in a not so good neighborhood with not that great of a population and maybe an older property. And somebody would say, hey, that same income that's produced, I'll pay 10% for that because of the area, the condition, whatnot. And that will be a much lower price. So for us, what we look at is not what the actual cap rate is, but what we can make it be. So for example, the first deal we bought is a very good example. So we were not familiar with self-storage, You know, it was new to us. You know, we got some education and coaching, but I didn't know what self-storage, you know, trades at in that market in Sebring, Florida, when we bought our first deal. So we called a local broker. We said, hey, what does this type of facility trade for in this city, in this area? And they said a 7 cap. So people who buy properties in that area, this kind of property, would expect a 7% cash on cash return for this asset. The seller was asking a 5 cap, which is about 30% higher purchase price than what the market would say the property's worth. But we were able to, one, negotiate seller financing. So we are willing to pay that lower price because we got great terms. We only had to put 150K down on a 850 purchase price. So it's like 15% or so. And then we got 3% interest only with a 5-year term. And so we got great terms. So it allowed us to pay a higher price. But then we also saw the immediate add value on this opportunity. So there was the opportunity of, there's a big commercial building that they were using for their tree business. So they sold their tree business. So they were not going to use that property that for them wasn't producing income. But when they move and we put it in an AC company in there, that was an extra $1,750 a month to our income that they weren't realizing. And so that was immediate add value. Their rents were about 50% below market. We were able to get those up to market rent. So that was like immediate add value without having to, you know, do a lot of work or spend money. The money we spent on that property was we added buildings, we moved the fence line so that way we can increase the parking spaces. So we dropped some crushed asphalt, increased the parking, painted the doors to give it better curb appeal, added gate softwares and signage all over the property so we get more attraction, started doing marketing for the property that they had no marketing for. And so that property that we bought at a 5 cap, where people would say, hey, you overpay for that property. Well, we were able to 6 months later make it a 12 cap property. So we were able to pretty much more than double the property value in 6 months.
Got it. Now, when you say marketing for self-storage, what does that entail in the self-storage world?
So most of it, the best form of marketing for self-storage is like literally on your iPhone. So like essentially, you know, doing Google PPC. So Google PPC, SEO is also good, but PPC is going to get you the immediate traction where somebody's in that area and searching, you know, self-storage. And so they search self-storage. If you can be close to the top and then be able to get them to be able to book online. So you don't want to send them to a website where they now have to move forward and call somebody or meet at the property, you know. But if you can get them to click online, it's easily right there. It says, you know, rent a unit. What are you looking for? 10 by 20 available. This is the price. You can click in right there. You can sign up. They don't ever have to talk to anybody. When you make it so easy for them and utilize technology and the right softwares, you can have them book online and never have to speak to anybody. They can get their gate code, go right to the gate, have instructions how to get to their unit, get into their unit. There's a lock in there waiting for them, and they don't have to, you know, have to talk to anybody and just make it easy and convenient. So if you can do that, that's when you can really convert the leads through marketing. And then the other way is, you know, essentially that property was on a main highway. So we painted the doors red because it was actually white doors on a white building. So you drove by and didn't really know what it was. So we we changed the doors to red, added signage, you know, made it big, you know, known this is a self-storage facility. And so you also, that's another good way where you'll get some people just by driving by the properties and seeing that, you know, there's a self-storage facility there and familiar with it. You know, when they don't have to check on their phone, they live close by. They're like, oh, there's a self-storage facility I know that's right around the corner. But most times the phone and PPC is the best form of marketing.
I love it. Do you remember what the income was roughly when you guys got it, and what it was after you guys did the value add on it?
Yeah, I should memorize it, but it's like, I believe it was like 7,100, 7,200 a month. And then we actually just sold the property in February 28th of this year. So we owned the property for just under 2.5 years. And the income, I believe, was like 17,000. So we increased the income like $10,000. So we bought it for $850, put 150K of work into it, ran it for two years, and then put it on the market, sold it for 2.185.
Good for you, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What type of software allows somebody to see the units online, uh, rent one out online, and then also be able to get through the entire process online?
So there's like literally so many of them. Like there's tons of them. You go to like a self storage association event, and there's literally all kinds of different softwares. The ones I use are from Storable, and so they actually have many. Even Storable as a whole company has many different types of management softwares. So I use two of theirs. The first one is Easy Storage Solutions. That was the first one I got into. It's very easy, very user friendly. The one we're using now is called Store Edge. A little bit more complicated, but it does a lot more. And I like that one actually. Never like using like a new CRM, a new software or whatever, but I got to learn that one. And it's way more top of the line, offers a lot more automation and tools. So Store Edge is the one we use now.
What I was going to ask you is, for apartment complexes, depending on how new the building is, depending on location, deferred maintenance, you can use like certain expense ratios to just kind of arrive at a rough estimate without like, I could say, hey, look, if the building produces 100,000, expense ratio 40%, 45%, I'm at 60,000 NOI or 50,000 NOI. What would you say would be an expense ratio for the self storage facilities if somebody just wanted to calculate very quickly an NOI without having to underwrite the whole thing?
Yeah, 38% is what we use. Sometimes we'll put it up to 40, but 38% is typically the expense ratio we use. And we went back and looked at all our properties, and we're right at that. We looked at our financials for last year, and we're at 38%.
Got it. So if somebody wanted just to do NOI very off the bat, just 40% expense ratio.
Yeah.
Aside from taxes and insurance, like what are some of the like major expenses in running a self storage facility aside from software like marketing, PPC?
Yeah.
And are there rules of thumb like, okay, 10% for marketing, 10% for admin, X for whatever?
Yeah. So for taxes and insurance, by far is the number one and number two of your highest expenses. The next highest expense is payroll, and that's the one we can usually, if there is payroll there or high payroll, is the one we can cut because the way we use the technology and the use of the automation and systems, we can have somebody that's just like boots on the ground. We don't really need a full time manager there, so that's an expense sometimes that is you'll see on a P&L is like 36, 48, 50K, and we can cut that down to $1,000 a month. So that's a big savings there. The other expenses essentially are taking care of the property, like maintenance of doors, changing springs and locks and latches, things like that. And then I think for us, on average, I'd probably say that's probably like $300 to $500 a month. And we have older, not old properties, but older properties. They're mom and pop properties that are probably 20, 30 years old. And that's just constant like little changings of items. And I'd probably even say that's probably high. Sometimes we have months of nothing. And then lawn care of property. The expense that usually pops up that is we forget sometimes is actually because so many people actually use credit cards on the property or debit cards. There's a processing fee, and so if you have everybody like on auto payment with a credit card, and you make $10,000 a month, it could be 3.5%, 3%, 2.75% of that income coming right off just because of that processing fee. So that's something that is we forget to add sometimes in there. Utilities is a expense, but it's mostly light because we have one property that had no office and there's no water, and really the electric is just our gate and our lights. So the utilities aren't that much. Some properties have one property where the utilities are a lot, and we have businesses in these storage units. There's like some large storage units, and we have businesses in there, and it's all in one meter. So we pay the electric, and on that we have we actually charge them. So we actually get back a little bit because we charge them like an extra $75 if they have one of the units that has a utility plug-in. So that is kind of offset some. what else would be an expense? Let's see. Merchant fees, which is the processing fee, um, utilities, legal fees, repairs, bank charges, office supplies. So there's really not that much. Essentially, the taxes and insurance, especially in Florida, is the one that's like the most.
The most. What happens if somebody doesn't pay? Like, how long does it take for you guys to lock them out? And is there like a certain, like, what's average occupancy for a building that you guys are looking at? Like, are you guys looking to be at 100%, 70%, 80%?
Yeah, so they say stabilized historically in self storage is 85%. Right now, everything's kind of been at like 90 and plus, just because of the high demand right now in this market. We try to stay around. There's a lot of people who stay at 100%. Like a lot of people we buy properties from, and they like that Sebring property. We bought that property; it was 100% occupied. But what that would tell you, they're 100% occupied because their prices are so cheap. And so for us, we try to stay at like 92%, 93%. That allows us to know that we're constantly doing revenue management and increasing the prices on the right product, the right unit types, so that way we can maximize our net operating income. And so what that allows us to also do is, if you see in the marketplace that all the 10 by 20s that our facility and everyone else is completely full, nobody has a 10 by 20, and then someone moves out of ours and say they're getting $200. Well, now if I have the only 10 by 20 in the market, which is typically probably like a 5-10 minute drive time, where people will, drive to from their house, typically, they're going to be, we have the only 10 by 20, we can essentially charge more for that product. We can essentially say, make it $250, $240, just because we're the only ones who have that. Now there's people who might, buy 2 10 by 10s and whatnot, but that's just the playing with the revenue management of offering, something a lot higher because nobody else has it. So it's a little game of supply and demand.
Got it. You said about U-Haul and boxes. Is that a way that you guys typically add value at, or do you not like that? And how do you go about setting that up if that's the case?
Yeah, so we typically don't do that. We have, because we don't have the payroll full-time person at the property, we typically cut out U-Haul. We bought a property in Winter Haven, Florida, that was like top 10 in Florida of like U-Haul dealers. And the whole property had U-Hauls everywhere, and she had 2 full-time employees where that handled the U-Haul. But essentially, if you actually looked at the income compared to the employees, it was a little like a wash. And so it just didn't make sense for us to do that. So we eliminated the U-Haul completely and eliminated having to have 2 full-time employees. And for that property, which was a good size property, we had a full-time person for $1,000 a month.
So it just didn't it didn't make financial sense after you guys looked at the numbers. It's almost like, yeah, you're producing 100,000 in income, but if you have paying 95,000 in employee fees, it's like you're making $5,000. The employees are making almost everything.
Yep, exactly. And you can have them do other stuff and whatnot, but in reality, it's really not an income generator for us.
Got it. Okay. Can it be an income generator for other facilities, or?
For sure. Yeah, I think so. There's definitely it definitely gets you, it can get you storage clients because you go there for a moving truck, you're probably moving, store items there. So it can definitely help. I think some big facilities like those public storages, the Cube Smarts, they're kind of going in the direction that we are doing of like automation and unmanned stores. But a lot of those places, have full-time people there already. Mm-hmm. So in that case, it does make sense for a lot of those people to have and offer U-Haul.
Got it. Who finances these buildings? Like, which banks finance them? How are you guys typically financing?
Yeah. So we have purchased 9 self-storage facilities in the last 2.5 years. 3 of those properties have been through seller financing. So seller is the majority financer, and then we bring in private capital to partner with us on those deals, and they're putting the down payment in the CapEx, the repair costs. The other properties, I think we financed 4 of them with local banks. So 3 with a credit union, 1 with like just another community bank locally. And then two of them have been like bridge lenders. So that one in Winter Haven we bought it with a bridge lender, like a hard money lender, essentially short term, because that one had so much added value, and we were competing with cash offers. I had her on seller financing, but then another cash offer came in, so I had to come in cash. And the only way we were going to be able to buy that property was using a bridge lender. But there was so much added value, and for us, because it wasn't just strictly a storage property, it had some retail in it as well. We didn't essentially see ourselves keeping that long term. We saw the add value, and we decided to go in with bridge financing with the intention to turn around, renovate everything, renovate the units, renovate the retail space, increase the income, and then to turn around and sell it, which we just did on April 10th.
Got it. Okay. And then as it relates to value add, obviously there's different ways of adding value. Is there any other ways to add value to one of these buildings like that you guys are looking for? And then what are the regulations? Because I think you were mentioning to me that you guys have a self-storage facility that maybe you guys are going to buy, and then maybe you guys are going to add additional self-storage. Like, what does that process look like to know whether or not you can actually add additional revenue to the facility or additional buildings?
So essentially, you want to perform a lot of that due diligence up front in your due diligence period. And so a lot of times, like you can see, like one property we bought in Lake Placid, you can just look at the parcel and see that it all around it is buildings, and there's no place to add any buildings. So the add value on that one is simply, maximize the revenue with what's there. And you can do that by adding tenant insurance if they're not already doing tenant insurance. So typically on something like that, you can charge like $9 to $15. And then the company who's offering it pays you a commission, like 30, 40, sometimes 50%, and you get extra income. And it provides insurance, obviously, for the tenant, which is great for the customer. And then it's an income generator for us as well. So on big properties, it can produce a lot of money for you to your bottom line. And then increasing rates and lowering expenses is pretty much what you're going to do on those properties. Expansion is going to be the best option for you to exponentially grow the value of a property. And so when you look at a parcel map and you see, okay, they have all this space here that they haven't built on. Now you got to see, or maybe it has trees on it. You got to see, okay, well, one, will the city zoning allow me to add additional buildings? What's that process? What are their requirements? And you just got to go through that, that due diligence typically up front. And so right away you see that land, you call the city, you tell them, hey, I'm looking to buy this property. We want to add additional buildings. The property's already zoned for self-storage. Self-storage property is existing, so it should allow you to add more. But sometimes it's just the size of the building. Certain sizes of the buildings in certain areas require you to put like a sprinkler system in. So in the Winter Haven property, we had a big like 1 acre parcel that was for parking, and we wanted to add buildings to that property. So we went through the process. We didn't get to, in our due diligence period, find out until already kind of going through permitting that it required to bring a fire hydrant over. And the fire hydrant was like a mile and a half away across the street. So we were going to have to dig underground, bring in a fire line to have a sprinkler system, a fire hydrant there to run a sprinkler system. And so that cost was more than what we wanted to spend and the time it would take for us to spend it when we knew we were going to flip the property quick. So we started the process for the future buyer and provided the plans and the roadmap to get it done. And it was approved to build what we wanted to build, but we just didn't go through with that project because we knew we were going to quickly sell the property, and that's what we did. And even without doing that expansion, we doubled the value of that Winter Haven property in 15 months.
And then just leave it up to the new buyer. That was their value add if they wanted to go through that
Exactly.
as well too.
Yep.
Now, you brought up something, two things. One is, how long do you typically ask for the due diligence period? Is that like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 10 days?
60 days is what we typically ask for. And then what we do also is the due diligence period doesn't start until they provide us all our requested documents for due diligence, which is like a bunch of their financials, last 12 months of utilities, their 3 years tax returns, 3 years of profit and loss statements, building plans, old surveys, like everything they have on the property, work they've done on the property, all that information. Once they provide that all to us, that's when our clock starts ticking. And essentially, even though for us, we start working on it right away, but it gives us a couple extra days because sometimes, it takes time for them to get those docs together.
Um, are there special contracts for purchase agreements for self-storage facilities, or is it just like your standard purchase agreement that you would use?
I'd say it's probably close to a commercial contract, so it's more probably towards like similar to a mobile to a multifamily contract rather than a single family
Residential.
house.
Mhm.
Residential home. Our residential contracts are like 3 pages. This is like a 7-8 page contract, so there's more items in there to cover us and the seller.
I love it. What about parking? I know that you said that you were going to convert some parking into additional buildings potentially. I drive by some of the self storage facilities over here and I see like RVs and I see that sort of thing. Does that add any value ever? And is that better than having an additional building, or what works out
For
better
sure.
in those situations?
So it's definitely good additional income because essentially, you can put crushed gravel. Some people, even like the one we had, they were parking on literally grass and dirt, and so to not have to add any extra income, spend any more money on the property, and just allow parking could actually, be a good income generator. However, if you had the ability to add buildings, you're going to make way more money on a price per square foot. If you put a self storage facility there compared
To
units
the
there
parking.
compared to just parking. Um, the other thing with parking is, they're more sensitive to price increases. So with self storage, we say that the tenants are very sticky. Where you raise the rents $10, do they really want to get a U-Haul and take all their stuff out on a Saturday, get some friends to help them, and then move it somewhere to save $10? And so that's a much more pain in that rent increase. Where if it's a car, an RV, and you raise it $20, $15, and they can just get in their car, drive it across the street for $10 less, it's a much harder client. It's a much more price sensitive customer. Um, but covered parking, um, completely enclosed parking, those do very well. They get a much higher premium, still not as high as a storage unit, but there is high demand. And a lot of times, even though on those kind of units, someone might, you know, a lot of times if it's just like open parking and someone has an RV there, they'll, on June 1st, they're moving out and they're going to go use that camper for 3-4 months. And then they're not paying you for those 3-4 months. So you have occupancy fluctuations in your income, a drop, because like typically during summer, they're going to go utilize it. And maybe some areas in the winter as well. But if it's an enclosed space or a covered space and there's limited supply of that in your facility and other facilities in the area, well, then a lot of times those people will pay to keep their space even though they're using it, because the scarcity of like, hey, I could come back and not have that space available. So having the higher amenities allows you to kind of capture that rate year round.
Got it. Now, I've heard of this before. Is like in a place where it's like Detroit, Michigan, would it be better to increase rents like in the middle of winter because nobody's going to want to go like vacate the building, or does that ever play an impact on when to increase rent? Or
Yeah. So the first like self storage course I went to, they said that, and everybody's like, "That's a good idea." Like in the coldest day of the year, in the hottest month, like in Florida, like July, increased rents, and in January, February, increased rents, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." I made a post about that on Instagram, and people were like, "You're evil! Like, how could you do that?" But it is strategically smart, like July in Florida, nobody wants to go out there and move, empty a whole U-Haul and pack it up and move it around.
that's so funny. All right. Let's talk about lessons and let's talk about mistakes. So obviously this all sounds great. What are some of the challenges that you guys have had, or what have been some of like the lessons maybe that looking back at it, obviously it's helped you, but at the same time that maybe our viewers can learn from some of the mistakes that have happened?
Yeah, so I'd say our first hire for a manager was amazing. Great hire, awesome. Our next property purchase, we had struggle to find somebody, and we just used anybody. We used somebody who's willing to take the job, and I would have probably that definitely cost us money on that property. She did not do a good job, and that was a difficult property too. It was our most difficult actual acquisition. The property was really had a lot of deferred maintenance, and the clientele in there was like multiple people sleeping in the property. There was prostitutes in the property. Like, it was wild. It was like literally Fridays and Saturday nights. It was like a party in there. It was insane. And so that first manager probably cost us probably 6 months of actual quality turnover, because she just didn't do her job correctly, and we were relying on her, and we made a bad hire. So we should have fired quickly and started hiring somebody else. We have somebody there now who's a rock star. So definitely had a learning lesson on making sure we hire the right person and waiting to hire the right person. Um, the other one, what I would say is, you know, we knew we can add buildings to that self storage facility in Winter Haven, but we didn't go through the full processes of what it would take and what requirements, so like bringing in a fire line. Now, it's still a good deal without it. We doubled the value from 1.65 million to 3.85 in 15 months. But there was, if we would have known that up front, we probably would have raised more capital up front, and we could have put that fire line in, and maybe could have sold that property for 5 million, and 3x the property value.
Got it. Last question. What are the keys to hiring a good person? Since you brought it up, like what are the things that, like, maybe you've learned from hiring bad people and from hiring good people as well?
Yeah. So on this management side, it's like, I think really like customer service. This is literally a business based on customer service and providing quality customer service. And like, you can't get somebody who's rude or nasty or not polite. So having good communication, someone who's very friendly, I think for us is key, because, being that you're looking on PPC and Google, for your potential customers, if you have bad reviews, that's important. That's not going to help you. So making sure you get somebody who is quality, who knows how to be what I typically say, be a human, like just be a nice person and just can be kind and communicate, but can also be stern at times, because you got to make sure you collect the rent and can't let people step over you and do give you their sob stories of why they're not paying. So on other sides, I think we have multiple businesses. Hiring is tough, and you really got to find the right person for the right seat. And we try to hire fast on other sides, like acquisition, but also fire even faster is what we say, because if it's not a right fit, you just got to fire quickly. And so that girl, we were trying to get that first person on that facility, we tried to just work with her, but we should just let her go right away, because we just knew first month it wasn't a fit, but we kept her for 6 months. So that was definitely a mistake there.
Got it. Cool. Any final words or anything else, Alex, that you think would help our viewers?
Yeah, what I tell most people is speed of implementation. If you're looking to get into self storage, like take action immediately. Go get a list. Go start marketing. Go get some coaching. Go follow me on YouTube, where we provide a lot of value, and get knowledge. So we're providing info on how we do these deals, kind of breakdowns. We just sold 3 properties, and we did case studies on each one, of from beginning to from starting, finding the deal, the add value, the breakdown of the deal from the numbers, showing you HUD statements, and then how we sold it and profited. And so getting that education obviously is first, and then start taking action. Start going and talk to the seller. Start calling calling people. Another good way to get started is either working for somebody else or investing in deals as well. So if like you invest into somebody's deal, whether it's mine or somebody else's, a lot of times you can get behind the scenes knowledge of the inner workings of the property. You can go visit the property with the owner, and they can show you, how it works. This is what we're building. This is how we're developing it. This is how we manage the property. And you can get those inside knowledge and tips and gain that experience. And then that is very helpful too if you're a part of a deal. When you want to go get a bank financing, they want to know that you have experience. So if you're just trying to get started and you can't structure seller financing and you have to use bank financing and you don't have that experience under your belt, they're going to want you to add somebody with experience to be able to get that loan. And so you're going to have to bring in someone like myself or somebody else to even get the loan from a bank. And so being a limited partner on a deal and being able to invest in a deal will give you a head start on starting to do this business yourself as well.
I love it. Great. Now, Alex, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way is probably Instagram is at Alex period the investor period Quezada, Quezada. I think it's down there at the bottom. That's if you want to talk anything about real estate, or if I can help you, if you have deals and we can help you partner on the deal, put a deal together, wholesale a deal. We'll be looking to buy self-storage deals from wholesalers, from anybody else. If you're interested in investing in future opportunities with us, we currently have a 506c offering to build, like you mentioned that a little bit, the Tallahassee deal where we're building 70,000 square feet around a property we already converted. You can go to our website, Vault Ventures, VAULT ventures.net/investor club. And you can sign up there to get notifications of current deals and future deals we're working on. And we'll also send you more information on self-storage and buying self-storage and updates on what's going on in the self-storage marketplace.
I love it. So I just wanted to say thank you, Alex, for obviously coming on the show. You shared a lot of good information. It was actually very in-depth. And by speaking to you, obviously you can tell that you know what you're doing. So I just want to say thank you. For our viewers out there, just thanks for taking the time to watch. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you feel that this episode would be helpful to a friend, a neighbor, or a family member, make sure to hit that share button. Once again, Alex, thank you again. And to our viewers, until next time, make it a great day, guys.